Hey, all, Baruch Halevi B here from Defiant Spirit. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a minute since I've been on social media doing any videos. Been doing a lot of content creation and running programs and working with individual clients around, of course, my work as a logotherapist, the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl, excuse me, meaning-centered psychotherapy, but even more important, helping them find what he called the defiant power of the human spirit. Because what I have seen over and over again, particularly lately, is that what Hamas did to not only Israelis and the Jewish people, but what they did to the world is they unleashed darkness. They unleashed primal fear. I believe it's the fear that is leading good people to do bad things, protesting in support of bad people, Hamas and terrorists, and really unleashing that darkness has impacted and affected so many decent people that otherwise would make good choices are making bad choices. And of course, the haters will always hate. So it didn't take much to get them to reveal their true selves. The bottom line is I work with good people, all religions, nationalities, backgrounds, beliefs, good people who want to be great, good people who want to, as I say, make their defiant stand, to defy that darkness, not just the darkness of evil that has and will always continue to exist, but to defy the darkness that descends in our lives in 1,000 different ways. I don't care if it descends in your life because of the death of a loved one, or you're going through a divorce, or you're going through a professional crisis, you're dealing with depression. I mean, there's so many things that we can have to face and move through, make our defiant stand around. Well, I want to just share with you a moment that my youngest son Aviv had. A couple weeks ago, we were driving to dance. He's a dancer, and we spend a lot of time commuting, unfortunately, in the car, but we use our time to learn together, grow together. We've been doing a lot over the past 5 months of learning about what's been going on since October 7th in Israel. He is very affected by it. We lived in Israel until 2018. There was one podcast we were listening to at the very beginning of learning about what had taken place on October 7th, when a 12-year-old boy was being dragged out by Hamas. And ultimately, now I forget his name, but he was abducted, and now he's, God willing, he's under the hospital in Gaza, where they can find him and liberate him. And we were listening to this on one of the podcasts, how he was being dragged out. And I think one of his parents was on the other end of the phone, listening to their 12-year-old son being taken away. And my son Aviv, who is 12 years old, really he just resonated with this. It hit home. We didn't live in the Negev. We lived in the Galilee up north. But he identified with this boy in so many ways, and it caused him a lot of fear. And so over the following few weeks, Aviv struggled with listening to what was going on, continues to go on in Israel. And yet he kept going back to the radio. He kept going back to the podcast. He would make me listen to them. We got to this one podcast where it just became too much. It was too graphic. It was too hard for me to hear. I can't exactly remember at the moment what we were listening to, but what we were listening to was disturbing, as everything has been coming out of Israel regarding what Hamas did and continues to do. I went to, change that radio dial, so to speak, and he made me stop. He just stopped me, and I said, Aviv, I want you to face this stuff, but not this. And he said, Abba. He calls me Abba, which means dad. He said, I have to face this. These are one of my fears. Give you a little context. He has we're getting ready for a non-traditional bar mitzvah. Aviv, between his dyslexia and his unbelievably rigorous dance schedule, he dances every day after school. He dances in school. He dances on the weekends. He can't or chooses not to have a traditional bar mitzvah. So we study every week, and we study about the concepts of what it means to be a Jew. And more importantly, we study about how he can embody this idea of bar mitzvah in his life. And one of the things he wanted to do was he wanted to face his fears, his idea, not mine. Because he has a lot of fears. We all do. But he's not a sort of a machismo kind of a kid. He doesn't, run with the boys on the playground. He's a dancer. He likes to express himself. But he's also a bold and brave young man who said, but I want to face my fears, not that BS kind of fears that my, buddies are, dealing with at age 12. I want to face my fears. So we made a list of 13 of his core primal fears, and he's been chipping away at them one by one. And so he says to me in that moment, Abba, this is one of my fears, and I want to defy my fear. He knows my language. He knows Viktor Frankl. One of the things we're doing, by the way, is we're reading Man's Search for Meaning, the story of the Holocaust, and Viktor Frankl's defiant stand to defy his fears. Well, Aviv is just checking them off one by one. And so we're working through them. And it just hit me in that moment when he said, Abba, I want to defy my fears, that I was no longer raising a little boy. Yeah, he still's a little boy body. Yeah, he has his moments where, of course, he's just a typical 12-year-old little teenager. And yet, in so many ways, when he grabbed my hand, I felt that this was a little boy who was really a growing up man, if not a grown man, because I know grown men and women who don't face and embrace their fears so directly, so proactively, and so courageously. He's an example for us all. And that's really the nature of my work and this message, my podcast, my video, this week's blog. You can read about it. It's in the show notes below about Aviv and him facing his fears. And then my most recent podcast with Ariella, my wife, and also Dr. Dan, one of my professional partners and good friend, are all around fears. You know what the number one commandment in the Bible is? For all of you Christians and Jews out there, it isn't what you might think. It's not, do good deeds. It's not be a devout person. Those things have their place. What is the number one commandment mentioned more times in the Hebrew Bible than any other charge? Do not fear. Al tira, do not fear, in a myriad of different ways. Some say it's there. I think Maimonides says it's there 365 times, but however many times it's there for a reason, because as human beings, it is completely natural to fear, to want to live in fear, to want to take fight or flight in fear, to retreat in fear. And yet our job as human beings, I don't care about your religion. If you're here, then you're here to defy your nature, to live in fear, to succumb to the fear, to grow smaller in fear. Our work is to become supernatural, go beyond nature. Our nature, supernatural, isn't putting on a cape and pretending you're Superman. Supernatural is doing exactly what Aviv did when he heard that scary report come on the radio. It is my duty to face my fears, to embrace my fears, to transform my fears, to transcend my fears. That is the work that we're all here to do. That is the work of the Defiant Spirit. If you want to learn more, jump over to defiantspirit.org, where you can learn different programs and pathways I have to offer you. Most of them free. Some of them have a price on them. You'll find which one is right for you, and it's all there for you to do that one simple, though not simplistic, thing that my son Aviv reminded me to do in my life, and I'm here just to simply remind you to do, to become supernatural, to face your fears and embrace your fears and defy your fears, transcend your fears. That is the work of the Defiant Spirit, the work that we're all here to do. So I will talk to you in the next video. I will see you over in some of the videos on my website or on my podcast or in this blog. Click below. Until then, defy your number, live your spirit.